Doubles and Coffee, Kamla Persad-Bissessar, elected unopposed yesterday as the leader of the United National Congress once again. 15 years of leadership by Kamla Persad-Bissessar, fighting all comers, outside, inside, all around, dishonest PNM, starting way back in 2009. When Kamla Persad-Bissessar took on the greatest politician to ever walk Trinidad and Tobago, Bastille Pandey. She took him on head to head, fair and square. And all of those who like to lie in between and say that when you are the leader of the UNC, you control the NATEX and you control the election, and the election is not fair, and all of that nonsense. When the electoral processes are open, the list is available to all. People are allowed to make their play, make their symbol, go for leadership, go for positions, state their policy positions. Kamla Persad-Bissessar was not the incumbent. She was challenging the founding father of the United National Congress, Bastille Pandey, a man who had fought for people all along his career. Take Butu, horse kick him, lock up, did things for workers, increase wages, protests, hit the streets, walk, marches. Kamla Persad-Bissessar took on the challenge as a woman in politics in Trinidad and Tobago. A woman and women at that time were not given the respect that they deserve. They were still kept down. There was a glass ceiling that said leaders and prime ministers and leaders of political parties must be male. They must be manly. Kamla Persad-Bissessar stood up. Peter Kanai was there with her at that time and others. And she took on Bastille Pandey and won, shocking the nation. A year later, she became the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, bringing together a coalition of interests under the People's Partnership to defeat the PNM. And the PNM had controlled the reins of power in Trinidad and Tobago for 75% of the time, controlled the EBC, controlled the appointments to different service commissions, controlled promotions in key public service areas. And Kamla Persad-Bissessar came up and obliterated the PNM. While she was Prime Minister, she was attacked from inside the cabinet and outside the cabinet. The PNM mass news, fake media, The Guardian, The Express, TV6, CNC3, spewed lies on her and her ministers from word go. They talk about where she stayed while waiting for Patrick Manning to leave the diplomatic center and the residence of the Prime Minister. She stayed by some kind of faraway cousin family called Gopal, who was in trucking. And then later on, this Gopal company would go to a tender process under NP that had a CEO, a board, a tenders committee, invitation to tender, a minister under a Minister of Energy, and yet 27 front pages when Fitzgerald at Talbot, narcolepsy, wooden ladder, sleepy sativa, ride a horse with an 8-year-old boy on his lap, said, corruption, Kamla family going to win a tender, going to win. The tender had not been awarded. And this was a company that had a track record in trucking. The advertisement was out there, open tender for some sort of trucks to deliver fuel. And when I hear this thing and I went and investigate, Gopal truck had such high technology that if the truck explode, the driver and the worker would be safe because they had internal protection and foam and so on that would come into the car. But the tender was cancelled before it was awarded. But TV6, CNC3, Express newspaper, corruption, Kamla corruption. I just giving you one or two examples, you know. When former Attorney General Anand Ramlogan went at BAE Systems that were trying to build these OPVs that Patrick Manning had ordered for billions of dollars. And the targeting system, remember these were huge ships. that would park out there, no speed. They can't chase down no gun runner or no drug runner or no fast boat. They are highly technological, radar and so on. And they are warships. The main proponent and component of these warships was that the laser targeting shooting system. And it just was malfunctioning. The government gave BAE time to do tests to try to fix the laser targeting system on the firing mechanisms of these warships. And they failed so to do. So they went to arbitration. And Anand Ramlogan and Kamla Persad-Bissessar won the arbitration and got back Trinidad and Tobago's money, $1.2 billion. But front page, go and check what the Douglas saying. Front page of the Guardian. Government loses $1.2 billion. Total fabrication, total falsehood, total lies. Never corrected, never retracted. And story after story, editor after editor, who that had an affinity and an emotional relationship with the PNM, with PNM ministers, with Rowley, writing lie after lie, attacking Kamla Persad-Bissessar, having to deal with people in the cabinet. It was 5 parties, the only 2 parties that never gave any trouble, and worked with Kamla Persad-Bissessar on solving the issues of the day with the NJAC and the TOP of Tobago. My party back then, the Congress of the People, every and anyone. We all hear anything from Vernon de Lima during the 9.5 years of PNM. You hear anything from Myers, Robert Myers, a former leader, deputy leader of the Congress of the People, every day, every 2 days, attacking the People's Partnership, attacking the UNC, when in government. When Rowley do email gate and come out lie and scrape through a victory in 2015 with an extra hour given to the PNM by the EBC without informing the UNC, Robert Myers gone on a TSCT board. And for 9.5 years, he had PIP. You ain't hear he? You all forget what Kamla Persad-Bissessar went through from inside, from outside, from all around. Challenger after challenger in the UNC, and Kamla stood strong, took on all comers, called election when the election was due, not like Rowley, who wanted Small Pin to be the Prime Minister and selected him, thwarted the PNM Constitution, refused to call a convention, refused to allow 1 man, 1 woman, 1 vote, and selected Small Pin to lead because Rowley wanted to control the PNM and Rowley wanted to control Trinidad and Tobago, and Rowley wanted to control the treasury with his web of Inez Gate corruption all over your money. That is the PNM. That is Rowley. Kamla stood firm, and anybody and any person who came up and wanted to lead, and they were given prominence, no matter what their little aspects in political life were, their lack of having brought any policy or any change. The Guardian and the PNM fake news media would give them columns to write to attack Kamla, to attack the UNC, to attack her government, and Kamla stood strong. They attacked Kamla on her policy, on lies. They attacked Kamla on her health, on her age, on her gender, on her strength, and Kamla stood strong. Kamla fought off all, whether dissidents, whether naysayers, whether those who came pretending to be supporters, but were sheep in wolves in clothing. Those people all came to light, and Kamla fought all of them. One by one, she dealt with them, and they kept arguing, kept attacking. But where were they yesterday? Why did no one come up to challenge all of those who say how she's weak, and she this, and she that, and she can't lead, and Kamla this? And Kamla Persad-Bissessar stood strong. She took on Rowley, she took on Small Pin, she took on the PNM, she took on the PNM fake news media, she took on the PNM EBC, she took on the unfair, unjust system of electoral politics in Trinidad and Tobago. She took on the government of the PNM, who used the resources of the country taxpayers' money to hire people, to pay out salaries for 2 months, to renew contracts, to get money for election. And they got a licking of a lifetime from Kamla Persad-Bissessar. That is the lady who stands strong, who stands firm, who has united Trinidad and Tobago. And now you have the clowns like Marvelous Marva injecting race at every time they open their mouth, talking about Bangladesh and Delhi and all kind of nonsense, when we are Trinidad and Tobago. Kamla has kept her message consistent. She is a woman of the people. She came from poverty and reached up to the highest officers, the highest echelons of executive power in Trinidad and Tobago. But she never lost who she is. She never lost her humility. She never lost her love and care for those most in need. That is Kamla Persad-Bissessar. No other leader in Trinidad and Tobago, no other prime minister has ever had to withstand such attacks from inside, outside, and all around. And Kamla stands strong. And those who stood with her stand strong with her. Trinidad and Tobago is now strong. Trinidad and Tobago is now respected. The energy sector is already being revived. Water is coming into your taps. Safety and security is on its way. Everything, one by one, the morass and the mess created by the PNM will be dealt with. Kamla Persad-Bissessar stood strong yesterday, and she is the leader of the United National Congress, undisputed, unchallenged, and she is the Prime Minister of all of Trinidad and Tobago. All of us can be proud in our Prime Minister, Kamla Persad-Bissessar. And to all those who want to challenge her, want to try again, want to lie on her, want to obfuscate, want to be pathological, want to be disingenuous, keep going. Because that lady could take on all comers. Strength, brilliance, intelligence, heart, soul, spirit, and passion. That is Kamla Persad-Bissessar, the leader of the United National Congress and Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Bless.